Welcome to Carl DeGregorio's Desk Session 32. Wow. All right. Nice work. Thanks if you're watching this. Jumping right in. I'm recording on a different day. Not too bad, right after my normal day. And I've spoken before about there was a session where I made my deadline, but it was rushed. It was not where I wanted to be. There was a technical issue stopping me from doing it my usual time, and I kept delaying as long as I made it to my self-imposed deadline that it wasn't I made this, kept the streak alive, and if you my dad wrote a book about Joe DiMaggio. That was his hero for many Italian Americans. Joe DiMaggio was a hero for many of just Americans. He was a hero, and he's famous for many things: marrying Marilyn Monroe, of course, being from San Francisco, having a brother Dom who was pretty good and played for the wrong team in the Red Sox. And Joe DiMaggio also hit 56 games consecutive streak. So as that image growing up, beautifully and very rewarding to me and very fortunate for me, my dad had a streak mentality when it came to seeing me in plays in college and therefore after for as long as he could. And he never missed one. So because he has that DiMaggio ethic, mythology, all of that going through him, and the connection to being Italian American and him being a Yankee fan and a Yankee, Joe the Yankee Clipper. And I assert that I guess if the issue for Italians in America as immigrants, that the assimilation process, which is now, I guess a controversial word and or a controversial notion, the assimilation process of them becoming American, which really just means whiter, in my opinion, that sort of could have been facilitated by maybe the idea that the elegance of Joe DiMaggio in the field, his powerful swing, his kind of mute, regal demeanor, all the gossip stuff aside, of course, I didn't know the man. He was way before my generation. He was my dad's childhood hero. So, and I was born later in my dad's life, and he doesn't continue to have the legacy that Babe Ruth had, but for Italian Americans, it was a big deal, because of the elegance and because of the sort of regalness of him. The Yankee Clipper is a pretty waspy kind of notion, and it was about an Italian guy. He was called the Yankee Clipper. And so I talk about streaks. Okay, that's where I got off on the tangent, Joe DiMaggio. And it dawns on me that my dad didn't have to break the streak when I moved to California because I stopped doing plays. And that was by design. I was doing plays in walk-up theater, black box theaters. I was doing plays where, like I've said before, the audience did not outnumber the cast, and I loved it, and I enjoyed nothing more than the camaraderie of the stage. I did a play outside of Boston, and it was the best time, to be on. The beauty of it was it felt like maybe like a Joe DiMaggio, Babe Ruth era kind of thing, because the actors from New York took the train from Penn Station to Boston, and we found each other on the train. Like, are you going up to Boston for this? And they're like, and you playing this guy, you're playing that guy. And we sat and we were pals. By the time we got to Boston, we were pals, and we were going to get to do a play, and it was Biloxi Blues, and we hadn't bumped into the guy who was playing the mean ass drill instructor. And we were fantasizing that he'd be a fucking psycho, and we were making jokes about he was going to just do push-ups, and the truth was this dude was a former Green Beret. He was a great guy, great actor. but he was the real fucking deal. And he was taller than me. He was 6'4". He was jacked. And it's like, you know, you don't have to do any acting when this dude's barking in your face. And that's the beauty of the casting and just the good fortune to be in that show and to be at the point in your life where you could take, you know, I don't know, $400 a week and go away and do a play. And my dad came to see that one with my mom and my uncle, and people got to see it. And it was fantastic. And one of the things that was, and this, I'm sure, I know this happens. It's in the scene, there's the first scene takes place on a train, oddly enough. Literally, like the method acting, getting to the gig. The first scene in the play is these ragtag soldiers going to boot camp are on a train. So they built this thing that looked like a train compartment, and they like were pretending it's moving and shit. And it's this big piece of wood, and I think the train was going to double as the bunk beds, right? Or some shit. I don't know. And so that's the first scene of the play. And the night before we're going to open to the public, the fucking scene change, not only does it take, I'm not exaggerating, like 15 minutes of dead air, but the wheels on these fucking train / bunk bed compartment are like, it sounds like the train's coming to a screeching halt for fucking 15 minutes. And you could hear the stage going like, fucking, and I'm sitting there backstage going, that can't be the case. That can't be. Like, we're not going to make it. Tomorrow night's going to be a disaster. I called my girlfriend at the time on the phone. I said, I don't know how the fuck this show is going to, people don't know their fucking lines, it's a fucking disaster. The director walked out through a tantrum. I was like, oh, and because of my experience in theater and over even before college and in college and being in professional stuff, and this was a professional gig, I couldn't believe the how far and how fucked it felt, and knowing a little bit about like, yeah, we're that fucked, and we were all that panicked, you know. And then opening night, the fucking thing makes not a sound. It's almost like it's on fucking ice. The thing just bang, and they figured it out overnight. And that's what happens in the theater, and that's what happens. And so the streak I'm talking about with Joe DiMaggio, or any hitting streak, or any of those things, it's a hitting streak. And that episode that I referred to, yes, I could have delayed getting it out. I could have found a way to bolster my spirits or bolster my health, take a beat. I don't know. I could have done something to kind of be more presentable to the fact that it basically was a mulligan of an episode, if you will. But not all, I don't know, my dad's book has a really great section about the hitting streak, but some of these were bloop singles. It was some good fortune, and they weren't all beautiful, perfect line drive doubles. It wasn't 56 doubles, singles, and triples. It was a couple of bloops, borderline. The guy didn't have the range to get to it in the hole. You know, those kind of things added up to 56 in a row, which is untouched, right? Pete Rose, I think, got into the 40s. So the idea that as long as the streak is intact, as long as you don't break the streak, right? So, but sometimes, you know, you have negative streaks too, you know, and I've experienced that. I used to have, back to positive, I had a positive streak where I went through so many effing agents over the years. And what happened was you'd get a meeting, somebody would help you get it, or you'd get a mailing, or you'd do a showcase, and you'd get a chance to meet an agent and try to figure out ways to pitch yourself as a viable. I had to sing one time. I went in with an accompanist. I don't know what, a guy playing the piano for me. I paid him, and the guy's like, I don't have a piano. You're supposed to bring a tape, and I'm like, fuck. So I had to reschedule. I had to bring a tape and sing along to the tape, and it was a disaster. And so I've been through that a bunch of times. But what would happen is every time you get a new agent, like your energy shifts, their energy is like, look, we're going to try, you know. And back in the day, I guess there was always some pride element with the agency. And now you got to do it all on your own. And I think you always work kind of on your own. But I had a streak of getting a call back on the first thing these agents sent me into. And it would, in some cases... in some cases it would be, it would be the streak. My phone is going off and I'm trying to ignore it. But in some cases, the streak would be, it would be a false sense of this guy's going to be on fire, And I would get very confident that, I'm on fire. I'm booking this, or I'm getting a call back. And, and then maybe inevitably or not so inevitably, they'd lose interest because it wasn't a callback. It wasn't a booking or whatever. But so I'm just sort of trying to remember streaks. But there are, if they're positive things, and if they're annual events, or if there's win streaks and things like that, but there's losing streaks too. And because I'm using a massive sports analogy over this whole overhanging thing, there are also, I guess the other synonym for a streak is a pattern, right? And so we've all had patterns where we've all had patterns that are not always positive. And so I'm in this place in my life where I am trying to catch patterns as they appear, or at least very soon after. And I had one of these random occurrences. I'm again back to the ankle, the ankle of the century. When I have physical therapy, I get knocked out, but I get a burst of energy, and I'm out of the house. And so I try to use what's left of that energy and do some shopping like after the session. And I figure if I can just make it through, muscle through, limp through, and get this, food that I need to just sort of keep up my wares or whatever, that I will, I'll just knock it out. So I went to a store and I saw like one of those in-store demos, guys, got, sometimes it's food, sometimes it's wine, sometimes it's barbecue sauce or whatever. He's got a demo and it's in front of the exact thing I need, like the whole display, but the exact thing I need is like right behind his ass. So I have to engage. I don't want to taste wine, and I'm just, fuck, all right. So it's whatever. It's just one of those things. And I got a cane and I got the cart, and I go, excuse me, and I go reaching for it, and then I pop my head up and I look at, oh, I know the guy. And I know him from him being a customer at a bar and where I worked. And so we strike that up. And I've met 1,000 people, more than 1,000 people, right? So I know him. I know he's a cool guy. But I'm a little fuzzy on what the whole thing. I make sure I say my name. I get his name. And we're talking, and I'm, also standing on my foot, like it's a little bit getting to the point of past the comfort zone. Do you know what I'm saying? So, the conversation goes to how you doing, how you been. I'm actually out of work, but I'm gonna be back, and when you get back, I'll come see you. We have mutual friends neither of us have been able to connect with, and et cetera, et cetera. So. I find out stuff that he'd been not dislocated, but dislodged. What's the hell is the word I'm looking for? He has had to be. he was previously living in the Palisades, which in a miracle of randomness, his house survived. But excuse me, he had to relocate. There you go. And so I was, commiserating or not commiserating because that situation did not befall me, but I was sympathizing with his plight, and we were just kind of talking about how, the Palisades was a nice part of town, and man, what a bummer. And he was, anyway, we got to talking, and then I heard about his kids, and then I mentioned something about, I've been laid up from work, but I've been busy, and I'm really grateful. I'd had a lot of auditions and things like that, and he's now like this big regional job description he's got, and he's like, if I could do it again, not do it again, but I really miss it, and I wish I never got out of the acting thrust, which was nice and equitable and not so much that I'm comparing, but he was basically saying, and my take on it was, it's almost encouraging, keep your job, get back, heal your foot, and keep doing what you're doing. And then we talk a little more, and I said, oh, and I'm working on my one-man show. And then I literally, like a reflex, I said, and I'm remiss to say it now because of this new take on not saying not keeping these streaks of self-deprecating, these streaks of saying defeating things. And not, again, and this is probably the Jersey in me or the family background thing, but like I'm even going to caveat it, but I'm hearing that now because I'm about to equivocate it. And I'm just going to say, you know what, I'm just going to work on not saying negative things about myself. I'll leave it at that rather than equivocate it. So I said, oh, I'm working on my one-man show, and not even with a fucking pause. I said, like, the world needs another one of those. And I hope energetically I could put that in parentheses as this is a healing to say it to you, to explain to you how it came upon me. And I even had a visceral reaction saying it again. I said that. He said, no, don't say that. He admonished me in the nicest way, and I think it's because he mentioned that he had kids that are interested in drama and musicals and music, and he was once that, and he still misses it, and he admonished me in a very kind way to say, no, don't say that, keep doing that. People, I want to see it, I want to hear about it, I want to know. And I was like, what a if you believe in cosmicness or coincidence, or there are no accidents, or if you believe in synchronicity, or if you believe in the things coming through people as conduits rather than from ego, and for him to be that kind to say, don't say that. And I said, you know what, you're right, I can't believe I just said that. And I also knew I had like a switch to, it's like a train on a track, and one goes this way and one goes that way, and that negative phrase was coming out of my mouth, and the other track was, and I'm really excited. I'm working on a one-man show, and I'm really excited about it. And I just found out I got 6 more weeks to be laid up, trying to recuperate. And I was worried I was running out of runway to sort of make this deal with myself, to present this, even if it's just the 4 or 5 friends. I was making this deal. I was going to present this before, to make something positive out of this injury. And then when I get a chance to talk about it, I mean, can you imagine? That's my elevator pitch. I don't, what if this guy on the side is a producer? What if this guy's uncle owns a theater? And I'm saying, I'm not hyping it. And so what I mean about, reconfiguring streaks, I got to break this streak or this tendency. And part of the thinking, I think, was when he kind of bemoaned the fact that he was no longer in it, which you can get in it any effing time you want, and you can get out anytime you fucking want, and it always repopulates. And we kind of both also said, the reason you got to stop saying that is because it was never a good time. What was any different in 95 about an overglut of actors? It may even be more, yes, statistically more people want to be actors and presenters and all that shit than it was when I was a young man, but it was still never a good time. So we talked about that, and I really appreciated it. And then, we said our goodbyes, we exchanged numbers, and he said, when you get back to work, let me know, I'll come say hey. And, this is the kind of person that might actually be a butt in the seat. And if he isn't, it takes so very little to encourage someone, but just the fact that he didn't want to hear that negative speech, or understood maybe artist to artist that we do that sometimes. And part of it was also, I didn't want to like hammer I'm being codependent with an almost stranger, because I didn't want to make him feel bad about the fact that I'm got auditions going and I've got a one-man show. So I took a little heat off the fastball, and that's no good either. So either way, I guess the breaking of patterns is a good thing. And so like the adherence to streaks, they're again, going back to the idea that the media needs these simple things to sort of latch onto. A basketball player like literally just checked in for 30 seconds, fouled a guy, and then got off the court to continue a streak of consecutive games. That's not what a hitting streak was. That's like every day regular season. Joe D got in there and got on base with a hit. Didn't go over for 56 consecutive. That's crazy. But, that's an interesting story. But the thing that everybody leaves out, and I forget the exact number, but he got, there's that famous clip, and he kicked second base. I don't know if that's the actual hit that broke it, but he showed a rare glimmer of anger. And so he went 0 for one day, and then he went on another, I think 13 out of 14 or 14 out of 15 after the 56. So it was like 70 games in 69, 70 hit, whatever, the point, 69, 70. So he was feeling it. He was in the zone, and so the streak is the little factoid, but if you get locked into negative streaks or the idea that you have to do an episode, I mean, what is a scheduled performance of a television show? Certain shows are on every Monday, every Tuesday. You have to keep those that's your schedule. So, and that's different. And I'm self-imposing a schedule, and I didn't blow it, but I went over that day, let's say, if I didn't have a great session because I was, But the second part of that can be if something comes up in your day-to-day, and I won't go into it, but like what did yesterday, it really kind of threw me, and I had to talk some things out, and I was worn out, and I had to schedule myself for this thing, and I'm way ahead today, so I just pushed it another day. So I'll keep my streak intact, but it's also the rebound. If I missed one because of God forbid something worse than what anything that could befall you, if I don't have them banked, if I don't get this automated, like a lot of pods now have the production staff, so all they have to do is show up and talk. I have to set this all up, put it out, clip it, put it, upload it, all that stuff. You can outsource that, and I think AI is ultimately the good part of it, is that it could start doing that. So if I bank a few of these sessions, I could be on vacation and skip it and keep the streak or keep the schedule, and I'm gonna have to think about that. But until then, if I miss one, it's the get back on the horse thing. And I know these are all cliches and aphorisms and things like that, but they were condensed wisdom from experience in my thinking. So getting back on the horse that kicked you off is sort of a good one, and or the sun also rises is not an aphorism, it's a great title, but just as many good things can happen, and just as many I'm definitely my algorithm is putting a lot of these Andrew Carnegie, positive psychology, and also just being careful what you say out loud, because it has to come out of your mouth first. That means it's a reflection of your inner world that you would say something fucked up about yourself, and I'm just not okay with that anymore. Only because the snark and the negativity of the world today is going to say that shit anyway. And here's another thing that has come up. I'm getting close to obviously just presenting, like I said, to an informal group, and I'm looking for places that I could rent if it's more of like a black box, or like some kind of amphitheater kind of classroom setting, somewhere I can just rent and get for 3 hours in the middle of a Saturday afternoon and read this for some friends, and buy some 12-foot subway or whatever. And so I know I'm getting close, and I'm dusting it off, and I'm starting to feel good about it. And now I have an idea for a new name, because right now it's We Carry the Light, which is sort of putting your money in where your mouth is, in terms of it's going to be upbeat, it's going to be life affirming, it's a branding thing that is going to not be a Bronx Tale, you know what I'm saying? It's nebulous, and it's piggybacking on other works of writing. And I came up with an idea of because I heard that Santa Monica was the birthplace of beach volleyball. I didn't know that. I know there's courts, but I didn't know it was the birthplace of beach volleyball. And apparently they are no longer negotiating to have the beach volleyball at the Olympics in Santa Monica because of this, that, and the other. And when I heard that little news item, I said out loud to myself, man, these people have no nose for the dramatic, or no nose for the symbolism of it, no nose for poetry or whatever. The idea that they'd let it slide and not insist on it or find a way to close the deal. And that, I just thought that was a whiff, not politically, but just like it's a whiff, and so then I was like, a nose for, and I said, I was like, and I was like, so I said, maybe I could name my show A Nose for Drama, or A Nose for the Dramatic, because I have a large nose. It's been the bane of my vanity for many years, and it's been something that I've maintained was part of the reason I wasn't on the soap. I've had a lot of issues with the fact that I don't have a button nose, but now I thought if I could name it that way, it's like a full circle moment. It's owning it, it's living in it, it's being Yas Queen about it or whatever the fuck. And I don't know, maybe it is a cool idea, because then it could help you could see the poster a little better where it's a nose for the drama, and it lets you know that there is in a self-deprecating is different than self-defeating. It'll say maybe to the audience, this could be fun, because we carry the light, could be, wow, I don't know what the fuck that's about. So it's still up for debate, but I thought to myself, maybe as you get to the finish line of, not even the finish line, for me it's the starting line, but you get out of the phase of incubating to the phase of letting the leaves grow, that maybe just when I know I want to live in the light and talk about the light and talk about we carry the light and do my show, and really embolden and empower myself to take some matters into my own hands, and what that could mean just for me in terms of getting back to my art, getting back to doing a play, even if it's a one-man one, that's the thing about streaks, and why, my dad won't be able to see this one, but that doesn't mean he ain't going to be there. Right. So am I giving myself is that the old creeping nature of what I said in the grocery store, a nose for the dramatic, don't put yourself on a pedestal. Is it that? Is it just when I think I'm going to present, I want to make sure I'm fucking my own elevator pitch up, and that is what I want to guard against, and would tell anybody to, because I think things are neutral out there. Yes, they say that the universe, quote unquote, will conspire. I don't know about any of that. I think that there's going to be plenty of people who don't want things to go your way, or they're at maximum, they're indifferent. So that being why you don't shit talk yourself, because if the world is at best indifferent to you, and at worst out to see you fucking fail, you can't join that side. You have to be on the side of we're rooting for you. You have to be on the side of a nice guy in a grocery store who's not going to let a self-defeating thing be said, or he's going to check you at least to say, he's going to buck me up, and I hope I wasn't manipulating him to get that kind of feedback. But the point is, there are very few people, or maybe more than but you have to stay in that lane to get the mode. That's why you and I'm almost like on the idea. There's another thing I'm working on. I don't want to mention the name yet, but I will, I guess. But I'm trying to pre-campaign because of something I read in the trades about a particular show and a particular showrunner, and something that I think I could be right for, or definitely have an affinity for the subject matter. And it would be like probably a period piece. And let's just say it's probably got a crime, New York vibe, cops and robbers kind of vibe. And I want to make sure that at minimum, just at minimum, I get an audition for something. And I think it'll probably come out of New York, which already puts me at a disadvantage. So I am presently trying to find a campaign. I'm reading the source material. I'm looking for, something that I can latch onto and make a pitch. And so, I have to, use that campaign as an image and as a mantra. And you wouldn't be on the campaign stump saying like, the world needs another one-man show. The world needs, Carl DeGregorio as president. You you have to affirm yourself in your campaign for blank, for this, not in a political way, but just, you can't let in self-defeating things. That's not the same as not being humble. I think I've misinterpreted humility and self-defeating. So a random encounter in a grocery store, actually had an effect on me. I want to, thank that cat, and I'll see him soon, I'm sure, but I thank him for his generosity of spirit, and, for the progress I guess I made, that I could feel it coming over, and I knew I should have, and I guess that's the beginning of healing, is before I would have said it. And I maybe even doubled down when he said, no, don't worry about it. I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. That kind of shit is got to be eradicated from my operating system. And I have to stop that streak and start a streak of just saying good things and starting my campaigns for my one-man show, be it a nose for the dramatic, or, we carry the light, or whatever I'm going to call it. And I want to start this campaign for trying to get an audition for this show that has yet to even be, put into production, but I'm trying to be proactive, not begging and not reactive and all that stuff. And so this week, I hope to make some progress on at least firming up where I'm going to stand and read this thing. And then I can fill out, about 1 to 10 people will be in attendance to sort of help me say this in space and get some lineage of production that I can then, take some stills and say, well, we read it here, we read it there. And so I can start to build the dossier of this thing existing in space, not just on the page. And that's what this vlog was all about in the first place. And it's turning into other things for me, and check-ins and things like that, and progress reports. But it's also a place to work out. I know it's weird that I sit in my room and talk out loud to a camera, but it's a living, breathing journal of hopefully reconfiguring streaks of negative thought or patterns. I'm just using the streak as a metaphor, sports metaphor, but it's been helpful. It's helping, and maybe the act of saying it out loud, even if it's to space, puts the muscles that it takes to speak and the miracle of the human body. Like, I understand now that maybe you should think about the power of what you say for your own benefit. I'm not saying I'm going to, move mountains with my words, but there's a little self-deprecating, but that's a little humble, and I think I can let that slide. But the point is, I'm not going to shitbag myself. And why would your elevator pitch include a fucking diss to yourself? And so in the effort to be on my own side, I'm going to encourage myself and take that note from a almost stranger and encourage you to do that kind of stuff for you when you're working on something important. So, all right, that's it. That's Session32, Carl DeGregorio. Peace.